It's 2 a.m. and you can't sleep, not because of noise, not because of stress at work, because your car made a sound today that it hasn't made before, a grinding, low and intermittent, and somewhere in the back of your mind a calculator is already running. You don't know what it costs yet. You just know you don't have it. That is what zero feels like, not empty, afraid does. Level 1, $0. You are not broke because you spend too much. You are broke because the math was never in your favor to begin with. Rent, utilities, car payment, groceries, phone. By the time those clear, there is nothing left to catch you. The cruel thing about having no emergency fund is that emergencies don't wait for you to be ready. They arrive on a Tuesday, a cracked tooth, a dead alternator, a medical copay you didn't plan for, and every single time you reach for the same tool. The card fixes it. The card always fixes it, but the card charges you $11 a month to do it, then $14, then more. The original problem is gone. A newer, quieter one has taken its place. You tell yourself this is temporary, that you'll pay it down next month. You won't. Not because you lack discipline, because the structure doesn't allow for it. There is no slack in the system. There never was. At this level, money is not a resource. It is a source of low-grade dread that follows you everywhere, into every purchase, every decision, every sound your car makes at 2 a.m. You are not failing. You are operating without a net. That is a different problem entirely. Level 2, $200. You open a separate account on a Sunday afternoon. You move $47 into it. It's all you have left after the week. You feel ridiculous. $47 is not an emergency fund. You know that. But you don't move it back. 2 weeks later, you move $60 more. The balance reads $107. You check it more than you need to. It's not enough to do anything with, but it exists, and that is new. Then the thing happens. It always happens at this level. Your phone screen cracks, $180 to fix. You look at the $107. You move it back to checking and put the rest on the card anyway. You feel the loss more than you expected. That feeling is information. Before, you would have just put the whole thing on the card and not thought about it. Now you have something to lose. That is progress that doesn't feel like progress yet. You start again, $40 this time, then $55. The balance climbs back to $140. You don't touch it. An unexpected bill arrives. You find another way. You don't touch it. The account stays intact, barely, but intact. You are learning something that nobody teaches directly, that the muscle is not saving money. The muscle is leaving money alone. Those are different skills. You are building the second one now, $40 at a time. Level 3, $1,000. The balance reads $1,000 and something shifts. Not dramatically. It doesn't feel like the movies. It feels like a very quiet exhale you didn't know you were holding. $1,000 is not freedom. You know that. It covers one medium emergency or half of one large one. But what it actually covers is the most common category of financial disaster: the car repair, the urgent care visit, the broken appliance. The thing that used to send you directly to high-interest debt every single time now has somewhere else to go. You have a flat tire. You pay for it from checking and leave the $1,000 untouched. That is new behavior. 6 months ago, that flat tire goes on the card. Today, it doesn't. The math on that decision compounds forward in a way you can't fully see yet. People around you are still using the card for everything: groceries, Amazon, the dinner they can't really afford. You watch without saying anything. You're not better than them. You were them 6 months ago. You just found the gap in the machine first. $1,000 doesn't change your life. It changes one decision, and then another, and then the next one after that. The number matters less than what you do when the number is tested. You leave it alone. That is everything. Level 4, $3,000. $3,000 feels different in a way that's hard to explain to someone who hasn't been there. Below $1,000, the money is tactical. It exists to handle one thing. At $3,000, something psychological changes. You stop doing the mental calculation every time something breaks. You stop the quiet math. The grinding anxiety that ran in the background of every financial moment begins to slow down, not stop, slow. You handle a $700 dental bill without debt for the first time in your adult life. You sit with it for a moment afterward. That used to be a crisis. Today it is an inconvenience. The same event, completely different experience. Your friend asked to borrow money, a real amount, $400. You have it. That conversation would have been impossible before. Now you can think about it clearly, without panic, without guilt. You say yes or no based on the relationship, not based on fear. That is a different kind of power than wealth. It is the power of options. Your savings rate is not high. You are not investing. You are not building long-term wealth yet. That is fine. That is not the goal at this level. The goal at this level is to stop the bleeding, to end the cycle where every unexpected event becomes borrowed money with interest attached. At $3,000, you have ended that cycle, not permanently, not forever, but you've interrupted it long enough to breathe. Level 5, $6,000. 6 months of minimal expenses covered. That is what $6,000 represents for most people. Not luxury, not comfort. The ability to stay alive financially for half a year without income. You don't think about it in those terms day to day. You think about it as a number that no longer moves when something goes wrong. The water heater breaks. $900, gone from checking, not from savings. Your savings don't move. You check the balance out of habit. Still $6,000. Still there. That stability changes how you function at work. You are not desperate anymore. Desperation is invisible to most people, but your employer can sense it. When you need the job to survive the month, you make different decisions than when you can afford to lose it. You ask for the raise. You set the boundary. You stop agreeing to things that aren't in your interest just because the paycheck feels essential. The paycheck is still essential, but not like it was. That is a different posture. People notice even if they can't name what changed. You have a conversation about leaving a job that was never right for you. You don't leave. Not yet. But you have the conversation honestly, without panic. 3 years ago, that conversation would have been fantasy. Now it is simply a decision with a timeline attached. $6,000 does not buy freedom, but it buys the cognitive space to think about freedom. That is more valuable than most people realize when they're starting. Level 6, $12,000. A full year, fully funded. Most financial advisors will tell you 3 to 6 months is the target. They are not wrong. But there is a category of person for whom 1 year is the right number: the freelancer, the single parent, the person in an industry that disappears in cycles, the person who knows from experience that their income is not as stable as it looks from the outside. You know which one you are. That's why you kept going past the standard advice. At $12,000, you stop doing the mental simulation. You know the one. You run it in the shower at 3 a.m. when you hear something in the news that feels threatening. If I lost my job tomorrow, how many months could I last? You used to run that calculation and feel dread. Now you run it and already know the answer. 12 months, maybe 14 if you cut back. You stop running it because you stop needing the answer. There is a category of stress that lives below the level of conscious thought. You don't know it's there until it's gone. A tension in the shoulders, a shortness in the breath before you open your bank app, a quiet vigilance that never fully switched off. At $12,000, it switches off. You sleep differently, not better necessarily, but differently. The financial mind quiets, other things come forward. Things you didn't know you'd been ignoring because the survival channel was always louder. This is not the end of financial anxiety. Money will still cause stress. Life will still throw things. But the category of existential financial fear, the kind that comes from having no cushion at all, is no longer part of your daily experience. That is worth more than any interest rate you will ever find. Level 7, $25,000. The number starts to feel abstract, not in a bad way, in the way that a problem you used to carry everywhere feels abstract once it's solved. You don't think about $25,000 the same way you thought about $200. $200 was precious and fragile. $25,000 is structural. It is load-bearing. It is part of the architecture. You start asking different questions at this level. Not do I have enough to survive, but what do I actually want to do with this? You begin splitting the money, emergency fund, properly funded, untouched, and then something separate. A different account for different purposes, a sabbatical, a business idea, a down payment, a year abroad. You begin to understand why wealthy people seem to think about money differently. It's not that they are smarter or more disciplined, it's that the question changes when the floor is solid. They are playing a different game. You can see the edges of that game from here. Your parents call and something is off. Medical. Nothing catastrophic, but real. You fly home. You don't check ticket prices 3 times. You don't calculate whether you can afford it. You buy the ticket and you go. That ability to respond to what matters without first consulting your bank balance is something you will remember, not the money, the fact that the money stayed quiet. Level 8, $50,000 plus. This level is not the end. There is no end, but it is a threshold worth naming. At $50,000 in liquid, accessible savings, you have crossed into a category of financial life that most people around you have never experienced. Not because they lack intelligence, not because they didn't try, because the system makes it almost impossible to get here without years of intention and a great deal of luck held steady by discipline. You don't broadcast it. You wouldn't know how. The people closest to you may have no idea. Wealth at this level is invisible in a way that poverty never is. What changes is not what you buy. You buy roughly the same things you bought before. What changes is the size of the decisions you can make with clarity instead of fear, the career change, the health decision without negotiating with the cost first, the relationship you leave because you can afford to leave it, the opportunity you say yes to even though the income is uncertain. You stop measuring your security by what you earn. You start measuring it by how long you could last without it. That is a permanent shift in how you relate to money. It doesn't reverse. The account doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't know what you sacrificed to build it. It doesn't know how many times you rebuilt it from less. It just sits there, patient, quiet, doing exactly what you built it to do. And somewhere right now, someone is lying awake at 2 a.m., listening to a sound their car made, their mind running the numbers, knowing there's nothing there to catch them. They don't know yet that the first step is $47 in a separate account. They don't know what that $47 eventually becomes, but they will.